Puss in Boots by Charles Perrault. Once upon a time, there was a poor man who was very old and very ill. He called his 3 sons to his bed and said, "All my life I have been a miller, grinding wheat to make flour and carrying it to market to sell. I am not rich, but I can give each of you a gift. I give my eldest son the mill." The eldest son was happy. It was a very good gift. "And to my second son, I give my new donkey." The second son was happy. He would work with his brother, and the donkey would carry their sacks of flour to market. "And to my youngest son," said the old man, "I give my cat." The young man was sad. He knew his father loved him. Why had he given him nothing but a cat? "What good is a cat?" said the young man. "A cat is the best thing in the world," said a voice. The miller's son looked around, surprised. "Who's that?" he asked. "Me," said the cat, "and I really am the best gift of all." "How can you be? You're only a cat." "A very clever cat," said Puss. "Do as I tell you, and you will be rich." "What do you want me to do?" asked the young man. "Make me a hat, a jacket, some big leather boots, and a large bag," said Puss. The young man was puzzled, but he did what Puss told him. Puss dressed himself. He put on the big leather boots, his jacket, and his fine hat. He slung the bag over his shoulder. "Goodbye," he said. Where are you going?" asked the young man. "You'll see," said Puss, and left. "I know nothing will happen," said the miller's son when Puss had gone. "What can a cat do?" Puss picked a lettuce from the garden, put it in his bag, and went off into the woods. He put the bag on the ground, wide open, lay down beside it, and pretended to sleep. Soon a rabbit came along. He sniffed the air. There was a lettuce nearby. He smelled it. He saw it and jumped into the bag to get it. Puss sprang up, pulled the string, and closed the bag. He carried the bag to the royal palace and asked to speak to the king. The king was with his daughter, who was the most beautiful princess in the world. "Your Majesty," said Puss to the king, "I have brought you a nice big rabbit, a present from my master, the Prince of Carabas." The Prince of where?" said the king. "Carabas," said Puss. "It's a small place. So small it is not even on the map. But it is very rich, and so is my master." "Never heard of it," said the king. "But anything is possible." Every day, Puss caught a different bird or animal. "A present from my master, the Prince of Carabas," he told the king. "Master must be a fine man to give me all these animals," said the king. "And why not ask him to visit us?" Puss knew that his master could not visit the king and his beautiful daughter. His clothes were much too worn and torn. One morning he told his master, "I want you to go for a swim." The young man was puzzled. But he went to the river, took off his clothes, jumped in, and started to swim. Puss hid the clothes under a large rock. Just then, Puss heard the sound of horses' hooves and carriage wheels. The king and the princess were coming down the road in their carriage. Puss ran out in front of it and shouted, "Help, help, my master, the Prince of Carabas has been robbed." They stole his clothes while he was swimming. The king sent a servant to the palace to bring fine clothes for the cat's master. The fine clothes suited the young man. He looked like a handsome prince. The princess invited him to sit beside her in the carriage. Meanwhile, Puss had run down the road to a field where some farmers were working. "Who does this land belong to?" he asked them. "To a giant ogre," said the farmers. "He has magic powers and can change into any kind of animal. He frightens our children. He steals our food and makes us work like slaves." Puss thought for a moment. "If I do something for you, will you do something for me?" he asked the farmers. "The king's carriage is on its way here. If he asks who all this land belongs to, say, the Prince of Carabas." "And what will you do for us?" asked the farmers. "Kill the ogre," said Puss. "Oh, he'll kill you first," warned the farmers. But Puss was on his way to the ogre's castle and did not hear them. The king's carriage came along the road and stopped by the farmers. Who does all this land belong to?" asked the king. "Our master, the Prince of Carabas," said the farmers. King looked at the young man. "I can see my daughter likes him," thought the king. "And he has lots of land and servants. He might make a good husband for the princess. If only he had a castle." Puss walked bravely towards the ogre's castle. How could he kill an ogre who could change into any animal in the world? Puss went slowly into the castle. "Who are you and what are you doing here?" said a booming voice. Puss looked up and saw a gigantic, ugly ogre. He shivered in his boots. "I have heard that you can change yourself into any animal in the world," said Puss in a frightened voice. "That's true. I'll show you," said the ogre. And he changed himself into a lion. Puss jumped onto the table in fright. "Change back, please," he called. The ogre changed back, and Puss came out of his hiding place. "Well, it's not so hard to change into a large animal," he said, "but I don't think you could change yourself into a small one." "Of course I can," said the ogre. "Well, as small as a mouse? Impossible." "Impossible!" roared the ogre. "Watch!" And he changed himself into a tiny, squeaking mouse. This was just what Puss wanted. He pounced on the mouse and gobbled it up. Soon afterwards, the king's carriage arrived at the castle. Puss was waiting outside. "Oh, there's your servant," said the king. "And this is my master's castle," said Puss. "The castle of the Prince of Carabas." The king was astonished at the beautiful castle. "Well, the young man who owns this castle can certainly marry my daughter," he thought. And so the miller's son and princess were married. And at the wedding, the happiest guest of all was Puss in Boots.
The Ugly Duckling by Hans Andersen. It was so beautiful in the country. It was summer. Among the tall, dark reeds, a duck was sitting on her nest, waiting for the eggs to hatch. At last, she heard a crack. Cheep, cheep! One baby duckling had hatched. Cheep, 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 cheep! Out of the eggs, one after another, came 4 pretty little ducklings. They stared at the wide, wide world around them. The mother duck looked down at her nest. "Oh, no," she said. "The biggest egg is still there. How much longer will it take?" And she sat down again. At last, the big egg cracked open. Cheep! The baby bird tumbled out, but it did not look like the others. It was big and ugly. "It's awfully big," said the mother duck. "I wonder if it's really a turkey chick. Well, tomorrow I will try something and see." The next day she took her ducklings to the water. "Turkey chicks can't swim," she said. "If the big one isn't a duckling, we'll soon find out. Quick, quick," she called to the ducklings. "In you go." The first duckling jumped into the water, then the second, the third, and the fourth. Only the big one was left. "Come on, in you go," said the mother duck. The big one jumped into the water. It went under. Then it came up again and swam. "He's no turkey chick," said the mother duck. "Look how well he swims. He is my child. If only he weren't so ugly." "He's too big," said the other birds in the farmyard. "And he's the wrong colours. He's not like us at all." They pecked him and chased him, and even the girl who brought their food tried to kick him. So the poor little duckling ran away. He flapped his wings and flew over the fence. Outside was a dark green forest. The duckling walked through the forest all night. In the morning, he came to a marsh where wild ducks lived. 2 of them came over to look at him. "What sort of bird are you?" they asked. "You're so ugly." But before he could answer, bang, bang! 2 shots rang out. The 2 wild ducks flew up into the air. Bang, bang! There were more shots, and the wild ducks fell from the air. In the reeds were hunters with guns. The ugly duckling kept very still. Then hunting dogs came into the marsh. The duckling was terrified and put his head under his wing. Suddenly, a ferocious dog stood right next to him. Its tongue hung out of its mouth. Its sharp teeth gleamed hungrily. It came closer, closer. Then it turned its head, and off it went. "I'm so ugly," thought the duckling, "that even the dog doesn't want to bite me." He lay there quietly while gun after gun was fired. At last, the hunters and dogs went away, but the poor, frightened duckling waited until evening, then ran far away from the marsh. Late that night, the duckling came upon an old, tumble-down hut. He could see a fire burning inside, and sitting in front of it, an old woman, a cat, and a hen. The front door hung crookedly from one hinge, and the duckling squeezed his way into the hut through a crack. "What's this?" said the old woman when she saw him. "It's so ugly. Well, come in for a while and get warm." But the cat and the hen didn't want the duckling in the house. "What good are you?" said the cat. "Can you arch your back and purr when the old woman strokes you?" "Can you lay eggs?" asked the hen. "I can swim," said the duckling. "Who wants to swim?" said the cat. Well, get out. So the ugly duckling went out into the forest, where he stayed all alone. Autumn came. The leaves in the forest turned yellow, then brown. Winter was on its way. One evening, just as the sun was going down, a flock of beautiful white birds flew out of the rushes and up into the sky. They were swans. They were flying to a land of warm sunshine and unfrozen lakes, where they would stay all winter. They were the most beautiful birds the ugly duckling had ever seen. He did not know what those birds were, but he loved them as he had never loved anything before. Winter grew colder. The ice on the lake began to freeze. Every night, the hole which the ugly duckling had made for himself became smaller and smaller as the ice closed in. At last, the ice froze around him and held him fast. Early next morning, a farmer saw him. He smashed the ice with his boot and took the duckling home. When the duckling woke, he saw the farmer's children looking at him. "Let's play with him," they said. The duckling was frightened. He flew up and into the milk pail. The farmer's wife screamed. The children tried to catch the duckling. He flew down into the butter tub, then into the flour barrel. What a mess he made! The farmer's wife struck at him with the fire tongs. The duckling flew out of the house. Then he made his way into the woods, where he stayed through the whole cold winter. In the spring, the sun began to shine again. Everything was fresh and green. The ugly duckling flew up into the sky. He looked down and saw 3 swans swimming on the lake. How beautiful they are, he thought. I will fly over to them. They will peck me to death because I'm so ugly. But it's better to be killed by those beautiful birds than to live in a world that is so cruel. He landed on the lake beside the swans, bent his neck and said, "Kill me!" But then he saw his reflection in the water. He was no longer a clumsy, ugly grey duckling. He was a swan. The 3 swans swam around him and stroked him with their beaks. Some children came into the garden. "There's a new one," they shouted, "and he is the most beautiful of all." He ruffled his feathers happily. I never dreamt, when I was an ugly duckling, that one day I would be so beautiful. Rapunzel, from the Brothers Grimm. Once upon a time, there lived a man and wife who longed to have a child. One day, the wife said, "I think our wish will come true." They were both very happy. At the back of their house was a little window which looked down over a high wall onto a garden full of beautiful flowers and vegetables. Through the garden ran a sparkling stream, and in the stream, watercress grew. Nobody dared go into the garden, for it belonged to a cruel and wicked witch. Day after day, the wife stared out of the little window at the watercress in the stream. In that country, people called it Rapunzel. It looks so fresh and green, thought the wife. I must have some. Please go into the garden and pick some Rapunzel for me to eat, she said to her husband. I can't, said her husband. The witch might catch me. If I don't have some, I shall die, said the wife. The husband loved his wife and did not want her to die. So, that night, he climbed over the wall, down into the witch's garden, and picked some Rapunzel for his wife. It tasted so good that his wife wanted more. If you don't get more of it for me, I shall die, she said. So the next night, the husband climbed the wall once more. But just as he was about to pick some watercress, he looked up. The witch stood before him. How dare you climb into my garden, she cried angrily, and steal my Rapunzel? Oh, please, said the man. My wife is about to have a child. She will die if she cannot have some. If that is true, said the witch, then take as much as you want. But you must promise that when the baby is born, you will give it to me. If you don't, I shall kill you for stealing. And the man was so frightened that he said he would do what the witch wanted. Some time later, a beautiful child was born to the man and his wife. Suddenly, the witch appeared. She snatched the child. This child is mine, she cackled. Her name is Rapunzel. And with that, she vanished. 12 years passed. Rapunzel grew into a lovely girl with long golden hair. The witch grew afraid that someday Rapunzel might marry and leave her. So one day, she took Rapunzel deep into the forest to an enchanted tower. There, at the top of the tower, she locked Rapunzel in and cast a spell so that the tower had neither stair nor door. You will stay there always, the witch called up to Rapunzel, and I will bring you everything you need. Whenever I come, I will call, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair so I may climb without a stair. When you hear me, you will undo your beautiful long hair, tie it to the hook near the window and let it down. Then I will climb up to your room. A few years went by. Rapunzel was lonely in the tower. To pass the time, she sang sad songs. One day, the king's son was riding through the forest. He heard someone singing in the tower. He looked for a way into the tower, but there was no door. Just then, he heard someone coming and hid behind a tree. It was the witch. She stood under the tower and called, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair so I may climb without a stair. A girl came to the small window at the top of the tower. The prince had never seen anyone so beautiful. Rapunzel let down her hair, and the witch climbed up. That night, the prince stood under the tower. Rapunzel, Rapunzel, he called, imitating the witch's voice. Let down your hair so I may climb without a stair. Down came the long golden hair, and the prince climbed up to the small window. Rapunzel was frightened. She had never seen a man before. Don't be afraid, said the prince. I heard your singing and wanted to see you. You're very nice. As he spoke, Rapunzel lost her fear. The stranger was gentle and kind. I will help you escape from the tower, said the prince. I will come every night and bring you some silk. Make it into a ladder, and when it is long enough, climb down it and I will take you away. Every day the witch came and brought Rapunzel food, and every night the prince came and brought Rapunzel silk. One day, when the witch had climbed up Rapunzel's hair to the window, Rapunzel said, "Why is it that you climb so much more slowly than the prince?" "Oh, wicked child," said the witch. "I thought I had hidden you from the world, but you have been seeing someone." She wound Rapunzel's hair around her left hand, picked up a pair of scissors with her right, and snip-snap, she cut off Rapunzel's hair. She tied Rapunzel's hair to the hook like a rope and made Rapunzel climb down. She took Rapunzel deep into the forest where no one would find her. "Here is where you will live," said the witch. "Get what food you can from the forest." The witch went back to the tower and climbed up. She untied Rapunzel's hair, pulled it up into the room, and waited. That night the prince came. "Rapunzel, Rapunzel," he called, "let down your hair so I may climb without a stair." The hair came down and the prince climbed up the tower. "Aha!" shrieked the witch. "You have come for your dear Rapunzel, but the pretty bird has gone from her nest. She sings no more, and you will never see her again." And she pushed the prince out of the window. He fell into some bushes full of thorns. The thorns scratched his eyes, and he was blind. He picked up a branch with which to feel his way and stumbled off into the forest. For years, the prince wandered through the forest, living on roots and berries, searching for Rapunzel. Then one day, he heard a voice singing. It was the same sad song he had heard coming from the tower so many years before. He went towards it. As soon as Rapunzel saw the poor, blind, ragged man, she knew it was the prince. She ran towards him, held him close, and wept for joy. 2 of her tears touched the prince's eyes. His eyes were healed, and he could see again. The prince took Rapunzel back to his kingdom, where they were married and were very happy. As for the witch, when the prince fell, she untied Rapunzel's hair from the hook. Suddenly, it slipped from her hands. The witch was trapped in the tower. And for all we know, she may be there still, for she was never seen again.
The 4 Musicians, from the Brothers Grimm. There was once a donkey who had worked for his master for many years, carrying heavy sacks of corn to the mill. When the donkey became old and was no longer able to do his work, his master decided to kill him and sell his skin. That night, the donkey decided to escape. "I may be old and weak," he thought, "but my voice is as strong as ever. I'll go to the town of Bremen and become a musician." And so that night, he ran away. He had not gone far when he saw a dog lying in the road, looking very sad. "Hello, old dog, why do you look so unhappy?" asked the donkey. "I'm getting old," said the dog. "I was once a strong hunting dog, but now that I'm old and weak, I can't hunt anymore. My master wanted to kill me, so I ran away. But how can I earn my food now?" "Why not come along with me?" said the donkey. "I'm going to Bremen to become a musician. A donkey and a dog could sing together nicely." "Woof, woof. I'll come," said the dog. They'd not gone far when they saw a cat sitting in the middle of the road, looking very sad. "Hello, old cat, why do you look so unhappy?" asked the donkey. "My life is in danger," said the cat. "I am getting old and my teeth are no longer sharp. I like to sit by the fire instead of chasing mice. And this morning my mistress tried to drown me, so I ran away. But where am I to go?" "Why not come with us?" said the donkey. "We're going to Bremen to become town musicians. A donkey, a dog and a cat could sing together nicely." "Meow, meow, I'll come," said the cat. The three animals had not gone far when they saw a rooster sitting on a fence, crowing with all his strength. "Cock-a-doodle-doo! Cock-a-doodle-doo!" "Hello, old cock, what are you screeching about?" asked the donkey. "I'm frightened," said the rooster. "Every morning when the sun comes up, I crow loud and strong to wake the farmer and his wife. But today I heard the farmer tell his wife to cook me for Sunday dinner, so I'm crowing while I still can." "Why not come with us?" said the donkey. "We're going to Bremen to become musicians. A donkey, a dog, a cat and a rooster could make wonderful music together." "Cock-a-doodle-doo! I'll come," said the rooster. But Bremen was far away, and the animals could not reach it that day. That evening, tired and hungry, they left the road and went into the forest to find a place to sleep. The donkey and the dog lay down under a large tree. The cat climbed up into its branches, and the rooster flew to the top of the tree where he felt safest. Before he went to sleep, the rooster looked round about him. Far off, he saw something bright and shining. "I see a light," he told the others. "It must be a house." "Well, let's go and have a look," said the donkey. "There may be a barn with some hay for me to eat. And I might be able to get a few bones with some meat on them," said the dog. "And I might get some milk," said the cat. "And there may be some scraps of food for me," said the rooster. So the animals made their way through the forest towards the house. When they reached it, the donkey, who was tallest, went to the window and looked in. "What do you see?" asked the dog. "I see guns and swords and chests of money and all sorts of stolen things," said the donkey. "This is a robber's house," he whispered. "Let's get away," said the cat. "Wait. The robbers are sitting at a table full of food and drink." "Food," said the dog hungrily. "And drink," said the cat thirstily. "If only we could drive them away," said the rooster. And so they worked out a plan. The donkey stood on his hind legs with his front feet on the windowsill. The dog jumped onto the donkey's shoulders, the cat climbed onto the dog's back, and the rooster flew up and perched on top of the cat. When they were all ready, the donkey gave the signal, and they burst through the window. The donkey brayed, the dog barked, the cat meowed, and the rooster crowed. The robbers were terrified. They thought they were being attacked by a monster. They ran out of the house and into the forest. The animals sat down at the table and ate and ate and ate. When they had licked and pecked the plates clean, they put out the light and looked for a place to sleep. The donkey lay down on a heap of straw in the yard. The dog stretched himself on the mat by the door. The cat curled up in front of the warm ashes in the fireplace. And the rooster flew up onto the roof. They were all so tired that they soon fell fast asleep. From the forest, the robbers saw that everything in the house was quiet. "We shouldn't let ourselves be frightened so easily," said the robber captain. "I'll stay here. You go and find out what really happened." And so one robber went nervously back to the house. Everything was quiet. He went into the dark kitchen and could not see a thing. Just then, the cat woke. Her two eyes shone as she watched him. The robber thought they were live coals and reached down to get a light. "Meow!" shrieked the cat, spitting and scratching at the robber's face. "Yipes!" screamed the robber. He ran towards the door and stepped on the dog. "Off!" growled the dog and bit his leg. "No!" screamed the robber and ran out into the yard past the heap of straw. "Eeyore!" brayed the donkey. He kicked the robber and sent him flying. "Yowp!" screamed the robber and woke the rooster on the roof. "Cock-a-doodle-doo! Cock-a-doodle-doo!" shrieked the rooster, flapping his wings. The robber ran back to the forest as fast as his legs could carry him. "Oh, we can't live in that house anymore," he told the others. "First, a horrible witch spat at me and scratched me with her long nails. I ran for the door and a man stabbed me in the leg with a knife. I ran into the yard and a monster hit me with a big wooden club. And on the roof sat the devil, waving his arms and screaming, 'Cut the man in two! Cut the man in two!' The robbers turned their backs and ran. And they never came back. The four animals liked the house so much that they never went to Bremen to become musicians after all. Every evening, after supper, they sing together. They make a dreadful noise, but since there is no one to hear them, they think to this day that they are the finest musicians in the world.
The Emperor's New Clothes by Hans Andersen. Many years ago, there was an emperor who liked new clothes so much that he spent all his money on them. He had a different set of rich and beautiful robes for every hour of the day. And every time he changed, he admired himself in the mirror. Life at the Emperor's palace was gay and happy. Every day new visitors came. One day, two swindlers arrived. They bowed to the Emperor. "Your Majesty," they said, "we are weavers. We can weave the most beautiful cloth in the world. This cloth is magic. Anyone who is a fool will not be able to see it. To a stupid person, the cloth is invisible." The Emperor thought to himself, "With a suit made from such a wonderful cloth, I could tell which men are wise and which men are fools." And he gave the two swindlers a lot of money so that they could begin work at once. The swindlers built a loom on which to weave the magic cloth. Clack went the loom. But the swindlers had not bought any thread to put in the loom. They were only pretending to weave. They were weaving nothing. I'd like to know what that cloth looks like, thought the Emperor one day. And he sent his oldest minister to see. The swindlers showed the minister the loom. "Isn't this cloth beautiful?" they asked. The minister looked. "Dear me," he thought. I can't see any cloth at all. But if I say I can't see it, the Emperor will think I am a fool." "Look closer at the colours in the cloth," said the swindlers. "Here is purple and blue and orange and red, all woven into a lovely pattern. What do you think of it?" "Oh," said the minister, it's beautiful. I shall tell the Emperor how lovely the cloth is. And tell him to give us more money to buy silk and gold thread. We need it to make more cloth," said the swindlers. A week later, the Emperor sent a noble lord to see if the cloth for his new suit was finished. The noble lord stared and stared at the loom, but could not see any cloth in it. "Good heavens," he thought, "I can't see anything. Does that mean that I'm a fool? If so, I must make sure that nobody finds out." He returned to the palace. I saw the cloth, and it's very beautiful," he told the Emperor. "The whole town is talking about this splendid cloth," said the Emperor. "Now I must see it for myself." So the next day, the Emperor went to see the magic cloth with his wisest ministers and noblest lords. Not one of them could see the cloth, but they were all afraid the Emperor would think them stupid if they said so. "Oh, it's very pretty," they said. "Wonderful, beautiful, magnificent. Oh, what colours, what patterns. It's absolutely perfect." "What? I can't see anything at all," thought the Emperor. "But I can't let them know that. They'll think I'm a fool and not fit to be an emperor." It's the most beautiful cloth I have ever seen," he said aloud. "Now make me a suit from it. I shall wear it in the parade next week. Make sure it's ready by then." Yes, said the swindlers. Every night that week, the swindlers sat in front of their window so that people could see them making the Emperor's new clothes. They pretended to take the magic cloth off the loom. They snipped the air with huge scissors as if cutting the cloth. Then they pretended to stitch and sew the cloth with needles that had no thread in them. At last, they called from the window to the people of the town. "The Emperor's new clothes are ready!" On the day of the parade, the swindlers came to the palace carrying a large chest. The Emperor was waiting for them with all his ministers and noble lords. The swindlers opened the chest and held out their hands towards the Emperor. "These are the trousers," they said. "And here is the shirt. And this is the coat. And the cloak with a long, long train. The clothes are so fine and light that your Majesty will think you have nothing on." "Wonderful," said the oldest minister. "Beautiful," said the noble lords, although none of them could see anything at all. "Now, will it please your Majesty," said the swindlers, "to take off your clothes? We will dress you in your new ones." So the Emperor took off all his clothes and the swindlers pretended to dress him. He stood in front of the mirror and turned round and round, admiring the clothes he could not see. "How well His Majesty looks in his new clothes," said the swindlers. How beautifully they fit, said the ministers and noble lords. What colours? What patterns? Said the emperor. These are indeed clothes fit for an emperor. The parade began. The people cheered. Everyone at the windows and in the streets said, "How beautiful the emperor's new clothes are." The emperor was pleased. "How lucky I am," he thought, "to rule such wise people. There are no fools in my country, for everyone can see my beautiful new clothes." And the people kept on cheering and saying how fine the emperor's new clothes looked. Suddenly, a little boy's voice was heard. "But he hasn't got anything on." "Don't be silly," said the boy's father. "But he's got nothing on," said the boy. "The child says the emperor has nothing on," whispered a woman. "It's true," said a man after a while. "He hasn't." "That's right, he hasn't. He has nothing on at all," said the people, one after the other, and they began to laugh and laugh and laugh. The emperor shivered, for he knew the people were right. The swindlers had made a fool of him and all his ministers. But we must go on with the parade, he thought, and he marched on with all his ministers and noble lords behind him. The next day, the emperor sent for the little boy. "You are the only person in my kingdom," he said, "who was not afraid to tell the truth. From now on, you will live at the palace. When you grow up, you will be my wisest minister and stop me from ever being a fool again."
The Princess and the Pea by Andersen. Once upon a time, there was a young and handsome prince who wanted to marry a princess and have a family. But his mother, the queen, said that no one but a real princess would be good enough to marry her son. "A real princess," said the queen, "is perfect in every way. A real princess is beautiful. A real princess is clever. A real princess is sweet and very, very sensitive." The prince travelled all over the world to try to find a real princess. But there was something not quite right about every princess he met. Some were too fat, and some were too thin. Some were too tall, and some were too short. Some were too ugly, and some were too stupid. Some were too greedy, and none of them was really sensitive. The prince went back to his castle. He was very sad. "I will never find a real princess," he said. "I will never marry and have a family." One dark night, there was a terrible storm. Thunder crashed, lightning flashed, and rain poured down from the sky. Suddenly, there was a loud knocking at the castle door. The prince's father, the king, went down to open it. A girl stood there. Water ran down her hair and clothes. It ran into the tops of her shoes and out through the toes. "Please let me in," she said. "I am a princess." "A real princess?" asked the king. "A real princess," said the girl. A real princess. The prince saw that the girl was beautiful and clever and sweet. He fell in love with her and wanted to marry her. But the queen said to herself, "We shall soon find out if she is a real princess or not." She hurried into the bedroom where royal guests slept. Then she took a small, dried pea, just one, and put it on the bed. "Bring me 100 mattresses," she told the maids. Then she called the king. "I want 100 mattresses on that bed," she told him. "Count them as they are put on." "Oh dear," said the king. "I never was any good at counting. I will get the page boys to help me." "Count the mattresses as they are put on the bed," he told the boys. "Begin." And as each mattress was put on the bed, they counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then they stopped. "I know what comes next," said the king. 11. And he looked very pleased with himself. Then 12, said the pages. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. "No," said the king. 20. Even I know that. Then 21 to 30, said the pages brightly. Then 31 to 40, 41 to 50, then 60, 70, 80, 90 to 99, and 100, said the page boys and king together, as the maids put on the last mattress. "Good," said the king. "I knew we could do it." The queen came back. "Are you sure there are 100 mattresses on the bed?" she asked. "Yes," said the king. "We all counted." "Good," said the queen. "Tonight the girl will sleep on top of them, and tomorrow we will know if she is a real princess or not." The servants put a long ladder against the mattresses, and the princess climbed up to the very top. "Good night," said the queen, and everyone left the room. The next morning, the queen came back into the bedroom. "How did you sleep?" she asked. "Did you have a good night?" "Oh, no," said the princess. "A dreadful night. I tossed and turned and couldn't sleep at all. There was something terribly hard in the bed. My whole body is black and blue with bruises. I don't think I ever had such a horrid night in all my life." "Take away the mattresses," ordered the queen. Then she told the king to count them. 99, 98, 97, counted the king, down to 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. When the last mattress was taken away, the queen showed everyone the dried pea. Only a real princess could be sensitive enough to feel one little pea through 100 mattresses, said the Queen. She turned to the Prince. You may ask her to be your wife, she said. The Prince and Princess were married and lived happily ever after. But wait, what did you say? No one, not even a real princess, could feel a pea under 100 mattresses. Well, you're right. She didn't. You see, the prince had a dog and a cat who saw the Queen put the pea on the bed. And when everyone left, the dog and cat told the princess, who slept very well all night and knew exactly what to say to the Queen in the morning. The prince and princess and their children looked after the dog and the cat for the rest of their lives. And the pea was put in the Royal Museum, where it can be seen to this very day.